So let's say you just want to make some basic materials of your own. And I'm going to show you how to do that really fast and just get a good introduction to how the material editor works. So the first thing you want to do is open your content drawer. I would probably recommend making a new folder, call it materials. Now we'll open that folder up. We're going to right click and we're going to go to material right here. And we're going to call this test material. And then I'm going to put master at the end of it. So now we can just double click to open up this blueprint graph editor right here. And I like to just drag it up here to get a full screen and we can just switch between them. So this is the material editor and what it looks like. This is basically the same type of system as your regular blueprints. So it's all the same thing. You can right click and we can search for an item. And basically if we want to set up a quick, simple material, you can actually just start with these settings right through here. But what I like to do is make this more dynamic. So we're actually going to right click, search for vector parameter. And you want to go ahead and pull that up. And I would give this a name. Let's call this base color. We can drag our pen here into our base color. So now I want to also plug up a couple more to have more control of our master material. So off the metallic, we can search for a scalar parameter. This one right here under parameters. So you can name these whatever you want. I'm just going off of what they are doing because we're going to need to look at that later. So let's just call this one metallic. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy that over a few more times. Let's change this one to specular. Let's make this one the roughness. Now we actually want to come up and copy our base color node, and let's call this one emissive color. And then we need one more of these scalar parameters down here, emissive brightness. So now we can plug our specular into the specular, the roughness into the roughness, our emissive color into the emissive color. And out of the emissive brightness, we actually need to search for a multiply node right here under math, multiply. And I'd go ahead and switch this to the B and then plug our emissive color into A. And then out of this, actually go into the emissive color. So that's what that should look like. Now let me quickly recap here. A parameter is actually what is allowing us to change these values outside of this blueprint so we can reuse it many different times, which you'll see in just a moment. But parameters are generally something you want to change on your child materials so that they can individually be controlled. Now what we're doing with the emissive is we can set the color and then our brightness value, and when they get multiplied together into the emissive color, so the higher the brightness value, the brighter the emissive color is going to be. And that's pretty much how this is working. And this is just a basic normal material setup. And now we can hit apply. We can save that. Let's close out of the master material now. And we want to go back to the content drawer and right click our master material and you'll see create material instance. Now, for example, this one, I'm just going to call it material 1. And you could, if you want, put an underscore and put inst, kind of saying that it's an instant of something. But we're not going to do that today, but you can name it whatever you want. So material 1. And now let's actually open this child material up. And now you can see up here under parameter groups, that is the parameters that we set up in our blueprint. So we can open these up and have access to all those parameters that we predefined. So now let's say we want to make this green. So I'm going to click on the base color here, and then I'm going to make it green. And let's make it a little darker so it's just easier on the eyes. We can hit OK on that. So there it is. It is now green. And let's go ahead and check. If I drag this out onto a cube, we now have a green cube. So now we want to make some more modifications to our material. So let's actually pop it out so you can see what's happening as we change it. Now let's say we want to make this object super shiny, for example. So we can make it look more like metal by checking our metallic box and increasing the value up to 1. If you set it all the way up to 1, clearly now it looks like metal. It's like completely reflective. So that's the metallic value up all the way. But now, interestingly enough, this is with a 0% roughness value. So we can actually make it less reflective by increasing the roughness. So if you set it all the way up to 1, now it's still got a little bit of like metal type of attribute to it, but the light is completely diffused and soft now, so it's not reflective at all. And obviously the further you bring down that value, it's going to start looking more shiny. So you can see here's like this is kind of like a car paint job, for example. But then if you get to like a clear coat, you get down closer to these values and you actually start seeing reflections. And of course, if it's at 0, it's completely like a mirror. Now let's go ahead and make another material, and I'll show you how useful this is. So we just take our material 1 and we're going to copy it. And then you can see it's already material 2 because I named it material 1. So it just changes the number to 2 automatically, which is nice. So I'm going to drop it onto this cube. And now let's say we want to make it, let's make this one orange. So we'll find like an orange color, probably something like that. Let's get it a lot brighter. So now we have an orange cube. And actually what I want to do with this one is I want to go to the emissive color now. And I want to make the emissive color orange as well. And now you can see under our emissive brightness, the further we start to crank this up, that object will actually start to glow, which is really cool. And it does actually emit light, as you can see very clearly now. Now that actually looks like you're looking into like a molten lava pit. Like that's really cool. Look how much light it's putting off. Here, let's get this out of the way. So you can see how big of a difference that is. That's like a light bulb or something that's really glowing hot. And the cool thing about emissive materials are that you can actually use in the light you're seeing as well. And you can see that Lumen is actually also working here and reflecting that light around. So definitely it's fun to play around with emissives. And even if you move it around, it's gonna in real time update your lighting. So now let's move on. Let's make another material here. So now we have our material 3. We'll drop it on. And this one, let's make it blue. And let's get rid of the emissive color completely. So now it doesn't have one. That's a pretty cool looking blue shiny color. So let's make this one not quite all the way metallic. Let's make it like 0.5. And let's increase the roughness to maybe what, 0.5 as well. So we kind of have like a middle ground here. And here's a little preview of the material 2 you can use to kind of see quickly what it's doing. And now you can see very quickly we were able to create 3 totally different materials all from the same master blueprint that we created. So this is not only super useful, it's actually also more performant because the game is basically only loading this one master material and then reading from that to create these other ones. So it's also more performant than creating like 50 master materials. So this is really the way that you probably should handle your materials if you're creating your own. And the other cool thing is, obviously you don't have to rewrite the code or copy it over for every single material. It's just built upon your one master with all your functionality built into it. So this is cool and all if you just want to make basic colors for things. But let's say you want to add actual textures in a more realistic scenario of like wooden planks or bricks, stuff along that nature. We're going to cover that in the next part of this little series here about basic materials. So today you learned about the basic colors, but then on the next video, we're going to go over the actual material process, which I have a super useful tip for that one. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Leave me a comment, let me know what I can improve on for future tutorials, or ask any questions you may have and maybe we can have the community answer them for you. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell if you want to be notified when I upload new content. And remember guys, the only way to master something is by consistently learning more and more over time, and soon enough, you'll be an expert.